Who?
Alan.
Oh, then they look similar.
Alright. You ready? Oh yeah. Crypto Monday, say one. Crypto Monday, say one. Let me get a round of applause. Let me get a round of applause, please. Yeah. Welcome, you guys. Welcome to San Juan George's Music Lounge. I'm your host, Pedro Rivera. I'm here with a friend of mine and the founder of DEIN Network, Mike Miglio. Give him a round of applause, please. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about who you are and your fabulous choice in fashion for today. But
Repping Celsius Network today. I'm Mike Miglio. Nice to meet you guys. I've been in Puerto Rico for 2 years now. In my past life, I was an attorney. I was a crypto attorney. One of the first firms in the crypto space back in 2017, servicing dozens of ICOs. I did that for a while. Learned a lot vicariously through the founders that I worked with, and then one day became a founder myself. It was back in 2021. I started a decentralized insurance protocol on Ethereum network, and today I still do the same thing, although we are in the middle of rebranding to DEIN, which stands for Decentralized Insurance Network, and it's a new project, taking all the lessons that we learned from the old protocol. So it's great to be here. Thank you, Pedro. Pedro is one of our advisors in the project as well.
So tell us a little bit more about DEIN and what exactly is decentralized insurance for those of us who are unaware, and give us a little bit more about that and how this kind of like version 2 of it.
Yeah, sure. So in my opinion, cryptocurrency and blockchain technology unlocked a lot of potential for us to do things in a different way that didn't exist prior. In particular, with the advent of decentralized autonomous organizations, which are DAOs. We haven't seen too many great examples of DAOs working in the wild, but everything that we need in terms of tech is there, and people are experimenting with different types of DAOs now. But assuming you can get a DAO to work properly the way you want it to, in other words, people are financially incentivized to behave the way the protocol expects them to, then you can do all kinds of really interesting things. We've seen that with the advent of DeFi Summer, just basically decentralized protocols in general, code-based protocols that work the way they're coded to work, are being used for lending and loaning, and they can also be used for things like insurance. And one of the components of insurance is adjudication of claims, and that's where the DAO comes in. So we had that idea a few years ago, and we ran with it and started building kind of as things progressed. And the bigger challenges we're trying to find out how to make this thing profitable. The actually getting humans to behave the way you want them to with DAOs came pretty easily, but the harder part was making sure that we could make the protocol make all the underwriters enough money, and we did. After about 2 years, we figured it out. The first 2 years was a proof of concept and trial and error and back and forth. So under Bridge Mutual, which was the first version of the protocol, we basically launched this massive protocol, tons of lines of code, more lines of code than Aave and Compound combined, over 100 interoperable smart contracts. It's a very complex system with a robust bug bounty and a very active community. And we ended up selling $64 million of insurance on that protocol. And it was a thank you. So it was a great success. And then
We got a section over there that's very activated.
yeah.
Right up under the Down the Fiesta sign. She's not playing. Okay.
So yeah, it was a very active community. It still is, and it was a great proof of concept. One of the issues that we had though was that like most protocols, they have some kind of asset that is used to fuel it, and the asset is there to align incentives, essentially to incentivize the developers to develop it, to incentivize the community holders to be active in it. This is their token. This is a token that people buy and sell and trade, and they hope to have a high liquidity, high volume. We had a token as well, and this token was used to reward people and also was the DAO mechanism in our protocol. But again, I alluded earlier to the math problem. It took a while to figure out how to make it so that the token price went up as the protocol was used. And we weren't just like paying people to be active and then like they would go and then sell the token and the price would be down even though the protocol usage was up. And now with DEIN, we finally figured it out. I have a 100-page long white paper explaining how and why. and all the margins and all the percentages. It's a very deep conversation to have here, but we're really excited to be relaunching with our new formulas and under the new name.
So let's back up a little bit because you said a lot. And,
Sorry.
But the one thing I want to touch on is you said about DeFi summer, and I know there's a lot of people who assume that DeFi is dead, and there were a lot of speculation, especially a lot of criticism from people who are not in the industry, just basically stating that decentralized finance wasn't real, it's not viable moving forward. What people don't realize is these protocols worked exactly how the ones that were actually coded properly actually work. The challenge that they had is much like Bridge Mutual, was a lot of the math was wrong and they were paying too much, and the math just didn't work on it.
Or they're getting hacked the next
day. And, so from that perspective, these protocols actually do work. It's just whether or not you have enough experience to get them to actually be balanced to where you actually have enough on a payout and it actually still all makes sense, and that's a challenge. So a lot of the tokenomics that you see in almost every crypto project out there are still essentially experimental because they haven't been cycled through their roadmaps. Now, with specifically with Bridge Mutual, the whole idea and the concept of having basically a marketplace that'll give users the opportunity to essentially, create pools of capital that can be leveraged against, particular policies on a variety of different products. It gives a lot of these DeFi protocols that are giving these insane returns. It gives them that buffer from the percentage standpoint of what they charge. So if you're a trader and you're making 30% on this protocol, but it's not so safe, if you can get somebody to register a pool on the other side that it gives you a policy and it pays out 7% or something or 8%, obviously you're gonna pay that and still make the arbitrage on it.
I can explain. That's actually a good point. So Bridge Mutual only covered on-chain risks. So I have a question for the general public here, if you don't mind. How many of you guys have used a Web3 wallet like MetaMask before?
We're not your average audience,
Just
Mr.
checking.
Miglio.
Just
We've
checking.
done this before.
How many?
Last time, this is Mike's second time at Crypto Mondays, and the first time he came, he was like, "Wow, I'm surprised. You guys they actually know about crypto." Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's not surprised at all.
Yeah.
How many of you guys have used a protocol
Everybody.
for lending, loaning, anything? Yeah. See, no, that's like half now. Okay.
Well, you're getting a little bit more specific. But when you say you use a wallet, like.
And okay, well, you got to start somewhere. And then, okay, so now let's say you're using protocols, right? How many of you guys are putting your money into a protocol in exchange for something back, like a yield? Well, yeah, okay, great. So now let's say you're earning like 30% yield, right? But what risks are you taking? Impermanent loss mostly, because a lot of people are doing like trading pairs. You're putting your capital in like Uniswap or SushiSwap, and then you're getting paid back some tokens to provide liquidity for this protocol, and that's great. As some permanent loss risk. Then you're also taking smart contract risk, right? That's the big one, because even big protocols like BadgerDAO and Cream Finance, which are like mid-tier but well-known and have a lot of TVL, they've been subject to exploits before, and it's not going to be the last time. In fact, the protocol Cream Finance got attacked with an attack vector that was available to exploit on Aave at one point. And the attacker presumably just chose not to hack Aave and chose to go for Cream instead. Aave quickly then patched that exploit so it never happened. But at one point, funds on Aave were very vulnerable. They just chose not to do it, maybe because the heat was too strong to go after a protocol with $12 billion and everyone's money on it. But so there's serious risk out there. But you can maybe get on some of these crazier protocols 30%, 20%, even 200%. What does insurance cost you? I can tell you. About 2%, 2 to 8%. 8% is on the very, very high end, but 2, 3, 4% is usually what you find. So if you're making 30% on something, and you can buy a policy for 2, 3, 4%, you're taking home 28 to 26% on your investment, and you're eliminating one of the biggest risks in the process. So that was always our proposition and our value add. It's kind of deep down though. I mean, like you imagine this crowd right here is already pretty crypto-centric, crypto-forward. You guys are not the average person, and then of you, only about 40-50% of you had even used protocols before, and then it's about getting to those people and getting them to use it. But even with those small numbers of applicable users, or our product market fit, we still got $64 million in policies sold. So there's a lot to be had there. Although now DEIN is focusing on insurance for absolutely anything. So the protocol becomes more of a foundational structure that allows for people to purchase insurance on chain for anything at all, if you can figure out how to make it work, on chain. So for things like car insurance, a little bit more difficult, but it's possible. For example, if the driver has a camera in their front and the back, and they can buy car insurance, and they can show by uploading evidence to the protocol that, hey, look, I got into a car accident today. Here's my bill from AutoZone, $8,000 in damages to get my body repaired and change the engine block or whatever. Here's the video of the car that hit me, blah, blah, blah. Here's the police report that I filed, etc. And you submit all that to the DAO, and the people will review it. And if the evidence looks good and the proof of loss is accepted by the general public, then you get your money back. You get your policy back. So that's just one use case, one example of something that's even harder to do. For things like life insurance, it's even much easier, right? For life insurance, you've got centuries of actuarial data explaining kind of like how to price people's survival rate, essentially, and what it should cost to insure them, and how much money they should be worth on a payout. You just plug that data into the protocol and put in your personal information, and the protocol can price your life, essentially. And then there can be an underwriter that says, okay, this guy is 64 years old, female, or male, sorry, this guy's is male, 64 years old, Indian, lives in whatever country, has these prior health conditions, and then
this guy's got options. He's flexible on the applications.
You can, anyway. The point is, you can price that, and you can find.
Depending on what the quote is, he's going to check both.
Yeah. Well, we're not the one approving it, to be clear. Like if an underwriter likes the terms, he likes what he sees. Like, he's a policy for 20 years on this kind of person with this profile, this background. The protocol can suggest a premium price, and then an underwriter can go and fill it. But it doesn't have to be at that price. It's all variable. And then, if and when that person were to die earlier than the policy expired, the family could go to the protocol and upload the evidence in various ways: certificate of death, obituary articles, whatever. And people could cross-reference that on Google, look at local news, make sure the guy was actually, dead, is deceased, and then issue the payout. And the payout happens automatically. Like once everyone votes yes after the timeline, 51% or more vote yes, it's an automatic payout. So lots of use cases for real life, and we're hoping to disrupt traditional insurance in that way, and we can, because traditional insurance has a massive overhead to have all their offices and employees. I feel like you want to talk. My bad here.
No. You're doing a great job. I'm doing a great job. Where's Luke at? Luke's told me for years I gotta let my guests speak and shit. So he says they're here.
I'll never shut up.
They're here to hear you, not me. But yet, whenever I'm not here and I'm off in some other land, they complain I'm not here. So I'm trying to figure out what they just want me to be up here looking good next to you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
They don't want me to say anything.
I heard years ago that one of the things that this sort of insurance, one of the things that blockchain would allow people to do is set up insurance companies for like crop insurance in Africa, places like that, where instead of it being like a DAO that figures out whether the insurance payout should be valid, it would be like a bunch of internet weather.com
an Oracle
sources that would.
Yeah.
And again, that's not how you don't go to weather.com for a car accident, right? But it's like, are there any African crop insurance type things?
Yeah. I mean,
where you have not validators, what do you call them?
Oracles.
Oracles, like Link does, but with DeFi, but like a real world kind of Oracle API thing.
Ron.
That would. It's mainly DAO centric with the human factor.
So first of all, that does exist.
Wait. What is the question? Because I want to repeat the question for the camera.
Oh yeah.
And you just lost me.
So he just mentioned that normally the DAO makes decisions on whether an insurance payout is warranted. Are there any cases where a computer system would automatically? Are there any types of insurance that he sells that where a computer system would make that determination instead, like through an Oracle, like where you just check weather.com to see if it rained on the crops or not, or it didn't rain on the crops?
Do people decide on computers
Both.
for payout?
No, I get it. So basically, the question. Should I repeat it? For
Yeah.
All right.
Please.
So the question is, are there any types of insurance that can be adjudicated without the power of the people, and instead be adjudicated automatically, autonomously, with some kind of machine, or maybe even AI in the future, or just information that's available.
That's exactly what he meant to say.
On the internet. And the answer is yes, and we're exploring AI as well. But so Oracle-based insurance, that exists for things that are easy, like yes or no. Like did a hurricane hit this area and likely destroy all the crops, yes or no? And then Oracles can say yes and then pay it out. So that kind of insurance was the first to exist on blockchain by a project called EtherRisk. I believe they're still around. They also have flight delay insurance, because whether or not a flight was canceled or delayed, that's also something you can check online and quickly get. We have depegging insurance, which is essentially if a stable coin is underneath a certain strike price for X amount of time, then the claim is valid. And so then you would just make the claim, and whatever the price is at right now, you subtract that from $1, and that's the person's payout, multiplied by how many dollars they were insured for. So yes, for depegging insurance, we currently have that for things like natural disaster insurance, flight delay, train insurance. Also possible to make on our protocol, and also possible to make it Oracle-based, just like you mentioned, and hopefully AI-based in the future. Go ahead.
When you do that depegging insurance, is that based on like link oracles or a different protocol?
Yeah, correct. Chainlink, but there's other Oracle products out there as well, from my understanding, that are cheaper. We've been it's on the backlog, but we've been looking at integrating multiple oracles, because then if link is wrong, like there's Oracle hacks too. There's protocols that get hacked by first attacking the Oracle, and then the protocol works fine, but it's using an Oracle to feed it information, and that's an attack vector. So yeah, correct. Currently we use Chainlink, but looking at integrating more, and then if we have like 3, 4, 5 oracles, you would just ignore the outliers and take the average.
Stokes.
So what are the levels that your technology makes sense? Like for, if you got $10 million, $100 million, or if you're just a dude with like 100 grand or somebody with 50 grand, like at what point does your technology scale to be, because these are all things where you're going to pay for this thing that you may never use, but the risk is so high to lose your shit that you have to pay for it. So at what point does it make sense to use what you're building, or you guys have it scaled in a way that everyday people can use it, or is it mostly for like institutional? No,
everyday people can use it. The everyday people can use it. The biggest cost that has nothing to do with us actually is Ethereum. The contracts that we have are complicated, so the functions you're calling on are complex, and because it's more complex, it's more expensive to run those functions, and so doing things like making a claim can be expensive on the current model, which basically means that our user base, typically they're insuring around $10,000 or more. There have been a couple $1 million contracts as well in the past, and other than that, it's basically like the less expensive Ethereum gets, the more open it is to the general user base. We've played around with being multi-chain before. The problem with being multi-chain is that you then have to kind of keep an economy going on a second chain, and also you take bridge risk. Bridge becomes another attack vector that can totally screw over your entire protocol.
Are you looking at L2s at all, like Optimism? Or?
Yeah, we're looking at Arbitrum right now. No opinion yet on whether or not that's the way to go. But right now we've got some potential lead investors that are very interested in us being Arbitrum forward. But I don't want to jump on this bandwagon, so to say, because I was around when Bridge Mutual had just launched, when bridges were becoming a huge thing. So our name kind of quickly got challenged by just the fact that so many bridges were popping up using a very similar terminology, and BNB was all the rage, and everybody wanted us to go on BNB, and then Polygon, and then the list goes on.
Maybe Waterfall.
Yeah, but it's thinking really long term. It's a big risk to port your protocol over to another chain that you have to now support for who knows how many years later, because other chains are kind of like flavor of the month, Solana as an example, and they don't last forever sometimes, or most of the time, and so it's I've been keen to just stay on Ethereum and stay focused. Yeah.
Next question.
So you mentioned life insurance, and with life insurance there's tons of data out there in terms of the risk.
We know when you're going to die. We know how much it's going to cost.
How much data is there out there to quantify the risk for the underwriters for these DeFi protocols?
That's a different ballgame. Bigger spread there.
How much data is there out there on specifically life insurance to?
No, DeFi protocols.
On DeFi protocols you're asking about? Not enough.
You can quantify
Yeah.
what the risk is for the underwriters to make sure that the system remains solvent.
That's a fabulous question that we have a good answer to. So that was
Mike, you should be a politician, Mike. You got like really, really great political answers. But go ahead, continue.
I appreciate it, but we have a really good answer though, for real. So this is I like this question. So there's another protocol called Nexus Mutual. They are always at max capacity. Right now they're considered the industry leader. They are not as decentralized as us. They're essentially like an insurance company that has a token for the sake of having a token, which is just enables speculation and is not necessary really for the protocol to run. They do use it for voting, but there's a bunch of back-end access, and they can change the claims and stuff, and they can downvote it. They can just disapprove of a claim that got approved, for example, and not do the payout. And so they have how you price risk. They price it manually, right? Which you don't have enough data to do. The new attack vectors open up all the time. There's different chains, different code. It's really not possible. You can come up with some kind of system, but there's no guarantee that it's going to be accurate, and almost certainly it's not going to be. So for that, for the underwriters, their biggest consideration is how much am I getting paid out for all this unknown risk I'm taking, and am I getting an appropriate payout for the level of risk that I'm taking? Nexus Mutual doesn't have variable pricing, so basically all their policies are sold for 2%. Which means their underwriters are making a static amount of money regardless of what the protocol is or how complex it is or the duration of the contract or anything else. It's a bad system. But it's number one right now. It's crazy. And they could implement variable pricing, which I don't know why they don't. But for the time being, since they're not, all their underwriters are missing out on a lot of profit. And there's another protocol, InsureAce, a different competitor. They were big for a while when Luna was large. They got big because they were offering UST depegging insurance when almost nobody else was, and everyone understood with lots of capital how UST worked, and that it was like an algorithm that could potentially depeg. And they basically went to Luna and said, hey, we'll like attribute 30% of our users' underwriting capital just to your UST depeg if you like promote us on Twitter. And so they did exactly that, and they got promoted, and they got really popular really quickly, and then UST depegged, and the price, like the risk was like totally not, they just winged it. They just winged it, right? The risk came true, UST depegged, their users all lost 30% of their principal they put in, chasing a 20% yield, and it was a disaster. And stuff like that will continue to happen. So the way we do it is all the pricing is variable. Essentially, you have a utilization ratio for every pool. So you choose where your money goes. Like if you want to insure Badger DAO and you want to insure Cream Finance and you want to insure Sushi Swap, that's your prerogative. You choose where to allocate your dollars, and you're also alerted of essentially how much APY more or less you're going to get. But as more people buy the insurance for those things, the utilization of the pool goes up because more capital is locked inside of policies, and then the price of future policies goes up as well, which means the APY that you're earning as the underwriter gets increased. And conversely, the opposite is true. If for example, on our protocol, Uniswap almost never has any buyers, but has lots of collateral. So it's like a wide open pool. You could insure a large amount of money on Uniswap if you wanted to, but everyone perceives it as a safe protocol. No one buys insurance, so it stays around 2% APY or 2% annual cost, which is the lowest it can go. And because there's so much capital available, it's considered a less risky protocol. But if people were to buy it up, the price would go up. So the answer is variable pricing. That's how you do it, just on demand.
So exactly that. You choose your own adventure. If you want to invest in insurance for life, life insurance policy is obviously going to have more accurate understanding of people's life expectancies and what they're worth than say a DeFi protocol would be in terms of whether or not they're going to get hacked. So you're going to get paid different amounts, and the market all dictates it. So it's essentially, understanding is, you have the ability to operate on both sides of the marketplace too, right? So that's, the good part of it.
Right. If you're the underwriter, you can rest assured that if what you're underwriting is risky, you're going to get paid out appropriately for that because the price will go up as people continue to purchase against the policy code.
Ron.